What if a desperate man, chasing a fresh start in a godforsaken desert, stumbles onto a massive chunk of pure gold, only to discover that the real treasure is greed itself, and it will devour him piece by piece? That's the nightmare I walked into, and it still haunts me. Stick with me. I'm Sam, and this is exactly what happened to me every brutal step of the way. My life was falling apart back home, so I boarded a train heading to a remote desert town for a new job. I sat alone, eating my lunch, when a woman and her child took the seat across from me. They looked hungry and worn out, so I quietly gave them my food. When the train stopped, the station was completely empty, no one around. The company had promised a man named Rick would pick me up. I looked everywhere and finally spotted someone sitting inside a small room. I tried talking to him, but he ignored me completely. I asked where the bathroom was. He just pointed silently. Annoyed, I went anyway. As I finished, a voice called from outside. "Come out quickly, brother. Even water costs money here." It was Rick, the guy sent to get me. I replied that I was done and stepped out. We got into his car and started driving toward the company. On the road, Rick suddenly said I'd have to pay $300 for the ride. I told him the company quoted $200. He got angry and said if I couldn't pay $300, I could get out and walk. I had no choice, so I agreed. The heat was unbearable. I reached for the air conditioner, but Rick shouted at me not to touch it. It might stall the engine. Then the tire blew out. Rick didn't move. He ordered me to change it myself. While I struggled with the jack, I saw two dogs fighting nearby, one attacking the other viciously. It scared me. Rick came over, asked why I was shaking, then killed the injured dog so it wouldn't suffer anymore. I finally got the tire changed and we drove on. Later we stopped to refuel and decided to camp there for the night. We gathered wood, lit a fire, and sat talking. Rick asked why I was going to such a far-off place. I told him life had been rough. I didn't want to depend on anyone anymore and believed this job would change everything. He said I seemed like a good man, but the place was ruthless. An honest person couldn't survive there. I just said we'd see. The next day, I drove while Rick slept. The heat was killing me, so I secretly turned on the AC. Soon the engine died. Rick woke up furious, yelling that he'd warned me. He stormed out. I apologized, but that made him angrier. He told me to shut up. I walked a short distance to relieve myself. That's when I saw something shining on the ground. I looked closer. It was pure gold. My heart raced. I called Rick over. "Come here, check if I'm dreaming." He was stunned. He lit his lighter near the rock. If it turned black, it was fake. If not, it was real gold. The flame didn't change it. It was genuine. We unloaded everything and started digging around it. We used all our strength, but the rock wouldn't budge. Rick tried tying a rope to pull it with a cart. The rope snapped. We dug all day until sunset. Rick said wild dogs roam at night, and we needed a fire to keep them away. We gathered wood, lit it, and celebrated. Rick hugged me and promised he'd give me a car with full AC once we sold the gold. That night, we made a plan. The rock was huge. Even months of digging wouldn't free it completely. One of us had to stay while the other went to get an excavator. Rick suggested that he should stay with the gold and give me the name of a trusted friend who could help with the excavator. But I insisted that he should go while I stayed behind to watch over the gold. He said the desert was full of wild animals and that I wouldn't be able to handle it. I told him I could manage, and honestly, I didn't fully trust him. He was a thief. After all, he might run off with everything. He finally agreed to go. The next morning, we split the rations. He gave me a satellite phone to stay in touch and said his friend had a digging machine, but it might take 5 days. Then he left. I covered the gold with dirt to hide it, set up a small tent nearby, and gathered wood before sunset. At night, I lit the fire, ate a little, and saved the rest. Suddenly, I woke to dogs howling. Being alone made me feel exposed. I gripped my knife and eventually fell back asleep. The next morning, the sun was scorching. I was exhausted and barely slept. The phone rang once, but disconnected before I could answer. I sat staring at the gold, dreaming of the big house I'd buy. Later, I explored and spotted a crashed plane in the distance. I wanted to check it out, but kept the gold hidden. I collected plane parts to strengthen my shelter near the rock. I rested to save water and energy. Suddenly, I heard noises like someone trying to steal the gold. I rushed out, but nothing was there. The rock was untouched. Then an idea hit. Why not chip off a piece? I grabbed a stone and broke off a large chunk, cleaned it, and kept it. Rick called. I asked where he was. The sun was killing me. He said the engine broke again. He'd be late. I begged him to hurry. He said a few more days and hung up. That night, the dogs howled from every direction. I held a burning stick to scare them off and stayed awake, terrified. Morning came. I wanted to sleep, but the sun burned my skin. My water was almost gone. I saw a snake and tried to kill it for food. My supplies were running out. The fight knocked over my bottle, even less water left. I went back to the plane area looking for anything to eat. In the distance, I saw someone approaching. I hid inside the wreckage, but the person called out. It was a girl. She asked what I was doing here and why I chose this spot. I stayed silent. She said I could stay in the plane while she left, but then she noticed something and followed me back to camp. I panicked. She couldn't see the gold. I demanded she leave. She didn't belong here. She refused and said I was hiding something. Her eyes landed on the gold. She exclaimed that I'd found treasure and wouldn't leave until she got half. Rage took over. I grabbed a stick and struck her head. She died instantly. I stood there in shock. I'd killed someone over greed. I gathered her things, dug a pit, and buried her. Later, a dog tried to dig her up. I pulled the body out and burned it completely. The next day, Rick called. I told him I was starving and dying of thirst. He apologized, said the machine was slow, but he'd come as fast as he could. I was weak from hunger and fear of animals. A car passed in the distance. I could have taken my piece of gold and left, but greed kept me rooted. I wanted it all. Before evening, a massive sandstorm hit. I ran for my tent, but it blew away. A tree fell on me, pinning me. When the storm passed, I was buried in sand with a branch piercing my stomach. Instead of pulling it out, I crawled toward the gold on all fours. I found a piece, jumped with joy, then yanked the branch free. Blood poured out. I wrapped it with cloth, but it wouldn't stop. In desperation, I heated metal and cauterized the wound. The pain knocked me out. When I woke, I saw the girl everywhere, her face haunting me. I couldn't tell what was real. The phone rang. I screamed to Rick that the girl was everywhere. He said to make sure no one found out about the gold. If they did, kill them. I was too weak to even stand. I crawled on the ground. Then the girl appeared again, no wound on her face. She offered water and asked for help. Blinded by greed, I refused. Terrified, I told her I'd killed her and to stay away. She asked if I'd seen her twin sister pass by. I realized this was real, the sister. I said no and told her to leave. She walked away. Moments later, wild dogs surrounded me. I called Rick crying, "Come quickly or they'll kill me. I'm about to die." He said he was almost there. The dogs attacked, biting me over and over. Through the pain, my eyes stayed locked on the gold. They dragged me and tore me apart until I was gone. Rick had actually arrived days earlier with a machine. He watched from a distance through binoculars, waiting for me to die so he could take everything alone. Once he was sure I was dead, he approached with his cart. An arrow struck him in the chest, killing him instantly. The shooter was the girl's twin sister. My greed destroyed me. But Rick was even worse. He planned to betray me from the start. What do you think? Was my obsession the real killer? Or was Rick the bigger monster for waiting to steal it all? Share your honest take in the comments. If this story gripped you, let me know what you'd have done in my place.